In the last few days, participating Barnes & Noble locations held a meetup event for the release of the first Prophecies Begin graphic novel. I got the chance to attend, and it was a lot of fun. I'll go over my experience, my favorite parts, and the parts where they could improve if they were to do this again in the future. I ultimately ended up going to 2 events total to see how they compared and just to hang out with more fans. Both of them lasted just over an hour. As far as the attendees, since a lot of people have been wondering how many people would be there and how old they were, the first one I went to was a bit smaller. I'd say maybe around a dozen people, with more kids than adults, whereas the second had probably at least 20 and the majority were adults. I was hoping I wasn't going to be the only adult attending, so I'm glad that I wasn't alone at either one. One attendee at one of them gave out 3D printed keychains, which was awesome, and so I have that on my purse now. Both locations advertised a costume contest, though there wasn't actually a contest at either one, it was just for fun, which I think was a good way to do it. I went to Squirrel Star and was the only one dressed up at the second event, but there were quite a few at the first one. Aside from me, there was a berry nose, a scourge, a cinder pelt, an OC, and 2 holly leaves. Or would that be holly leaves? Anyway, one had the event at some little tables near the cafe, while the other was held in the children's area. Speaking of the cafe, I heard that some locations had Warriors-themed drinks, but neither of mine did. I asked about it, and it sounds like that wasn't a standard thing. It was just up to individual locations if they wanted to do one, and if so, what they wanted it to be. Both of them had the cardboard standee that you could take pictures with. When we got there, we could each take one of the booklets that has a sneak peek of the graphic novel Volume 2, a sheet of temporary tattoos, and 2 activity sheets. One of them was similar to what we've seen on the website with a maze and crossword, and the other had a word unscramble game and space for the trivia answers. Yeah, the trivia. There were some issues with that. I participated in it myself the first night, and then for the second event, I helped the employees make some edits to the questions so that it would go more smoothly for the people participating in that one. Overall, the questions were pretty easy, and they were all focused on the first arc, though due to the way the questions were phrased, that wasn't entirely clear. For instance, what is the name of the medicine cat who serves ThunderClan through most of the series? Okay, so most of us instantly thought Jayfeather, since he's appeared in more arcs than any other ThunderClan medicine cat. But if they were talking about the first series, then the answer would be Yellowfang. About a third of the questions lacked that clarification, but overall we just kind of assumed that they meant the first arc, since the event was for the release of the Prophecies Begin graphic novel, and turns out we were right. For the second event, I made sure that they clarified in the first series when asking those questions. Oddly, one question did specify the first series, but was still open-ended. Who is the leader of ShadowClan in the first series? Well, there's 3 of them throughout the Prophecies Begin. Turns out they were looking for who the leader was in the first book, so again, I made sure that was clear at the second event. One question that the attendees also took issue with was, which warrior does Firepaw befriend during the series? Now, theoretically, there could be multiple answers for that too. For instance, he befriends One Whisker in Book 2, but most people are going to answer Graystripe, his first friend in the clans, and his best friend. But that wasn't what was listed as the correct answer. The correct answer was Ravenpaw, who met him a little later, left the clan during the first book, and didn't even become a warrior. Since the whole crowd felt Graystripe was the better answer, the employee decided to accept that one instead, and that's the answer I had them accept as correct at the second event. And then the most baffling one was a duplicated question, neither of which had the obvious answer as correct. Who is Firepaw's mentor? Well, Blue Star appointed herself as his official mentor, so you'd think that she'd be the answer for at least one of them, right? Wrong. The 2 answers accepted as correct were Tigerclaw and Lionheart, who did help train him temporarily, but neither of them were formally his mentor. The employee just threw those questions out at the first event, and for the second one, I kept one instance of the question with Blue Star as the answer, and for the second instance, I changed it to who were Firepaw's main 2 temporary mentors, excepting Lionheart and Tigerclaw. We graded our own answers. At both locations, the kids did just as well as, or even better than the adults, by the way. They had come up with a tiebreaker question in case of a tie, and the winners got tote bags with miniature figurines to the top winner. Each location had about 5 totes. It's pretty cool. It's double-sided with art from the graphic novel on each side. At the end, both locations had extra booklets and temporary tattoos, so anyone who wanted another could keep one. And while one location held on to the remaining extras, the other let me keep them, so I might do a giveaway at some point. I also asked if the standee was spoken for, and it wasn't. They were just going to throw it out after the event, so I got to take it with me. The thing barely fit in my car, but now it holds a place of honor with my collection at home. So that's what it was like at the ones I went to. As far as what I've heard about other locations, some of them did additional things like having coloring pages of cats, giving out unofficial stickers, or having snacks available. And of course, some of the Texas ones had the actual illustrators there doing signings. Anyway, things I liked and things they could improve on. The biggest plus for me, by far, was meeting other fans in person. There were even some subscribers there, so it was awesome to see you guys. It was just a good time to hang out, talk Warriors, enjoy each other's costumes, and share in our love of the series. Having handouts was also cool, especially since they put a digital version of the preview booklet on the official website the same day, so people who couldn't attend weren't missing out on the content. Now for what could be improved. Obviously, the trivia. The questions and answers came from HarperCollins and were presumably made by someone who hasn't read all the books. But if you're going to be doing a trivia contest, especially where prizes are involved, you should run it by someone who's extremely familiar with them. Whether that's influencers, the story or website teams, someone who can proofread them for correctness and accuracy. Not all the employees are going to have knowledge of the books to be able to clarify what's being asked for or to correct issues. And I've heard of quite a few poor employees who are probably overwhelmed by the crowd's loud response to the confusion over the questions and answers. As far as the prizes, it would probably be better if those weren't something exclusive to the event, so that there's less pressure if people don't get them. Things turned out well at my events, but I've heard of ones where there was drama over multiple winners even after tiebreaker questions, or stores giving them to people who arrived earliest, which can be an issue when people are driving multiple hours to get there, or raffles where your odds are just plain random, so even if you get all the trivia right or arrive early, you still can't do anything to improve your chances of getting it. And third, it just sounds like the events would have benefited from giving better instructions to the stores. It was set up at fairly short notice. My stores didn't post the dates until just days prior, 2 days in one case, which sounded like that was partly due to waiting on hearing from HarperCollins for more info, and waiting on receiving the press kits. It also didn't give fans much time to prepare. Like, I wouldn't have made it to the first one if I hadn't already asked off for work for something earlier that day. From what it sounds like, the event instructions were also pretty bare-boned, so they weren't given any direction on what to do as far as how to score the trivia, how to handle it if there are multiple winners, what to do with the prizes, and so forth. Anyway, that said, both of the events that I went to were super chill and a lot of fun. It was nearly the full moon, so that made it feel extra special, like a gathering. I've always wanted them to do a real-life fan meetup, and it pretty much turned out like how I hoped it would be. Hopefully, given the success of these events, they'll do more. Maybe hold them at bookstore chains in other countries, since Barnes & Noble is just US-based. Maybe someday we'll even see an official Warriors convention, which I would absolutely attend. Well, did any of you attend the events? And if so, was your experience similar to mine, or did they do anything different? If you were at one the illustrators were attending, how did that go? I'm eager to hear about your experiences. We'll see if they do more of these events in the future, and I have my fingers crossed that they will.